mastery. Oh no, look, it's almost like we're professional, and almost like we're good at it.
Gosh.
Well, hi there, and welcome to another edition of Live at Leigh's Place, brought to you by Vocal Mastery. My name is Leigh McRae, the creator of the Vocal Mastery system, which you can check out at vocalmastery.com. And as I always say, there's never been a better time to become a great singer. And speaking of great singers, my very special guest today is somebody I've known for quite a while now, and we might delve into that a little bit later on as we go along. Please say hello to Natalie Carboni. Hi.
Hi.
It's you. You
It
made
is
it.
me.
You got through the traffic.
Just through the traffic.
Roadworks.
Roadworks.
Guys at the
stupid
back here
drivers.
decided to excavate today, but we're doing our best, and if it's noisy, so be it.
So be it.
Because the content's the most important thing. How have you been?
Really well. How
I know.
are you?
Oh, I can't complain one bit. Not one bit at all. Man of my age, going just along just fine, you know.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of travelling, right?
A lot of travelling,
Yeah?
yes. Had a few months at home at the moment, but for the last 5 years, lots of
The
travelling.
last 5 years. That would be a name for a musical.
Hey, that's an idea. We should
talk-
write a show.
I think it might have been done. And by the way, you can check out Natalie's details. I guess it's down here. Everyone does that, don't they? You know, it's in the description
be
box.
somewhere, yeah.
It'll be somewhere, and you know, it's worth checking out. Believe you me. We'll delve into a little bit of what you've been doing in the last few years. But I've got a bit of a thing about sort of finding out where it started. And the question I ask everyone who comes on to our show is, when did you know you were a singer?
Okay. It's an interesting question. It almost has two answers.
Right? Give us both of them.
I started music. My mum put me into early childhood music when I was about 3.5, 4. So I would
right.
just be in the environment of music and, you know, percussive instruments, and working with a great teacher who we're still in touch with, actually, from when I was that little. And I was always singing around the house. So I was just always humming, you know. Basically, I didn't shut up from a very young age. But I didn't sing on stage till I was 13 or 14 at high school. So I didn't have a lesson until I was, about 14 years of age.
Right.
I was just a piano player. That's what I did. But I was constantly singing. And it was about that age when I was getting very frustrated with piano. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to do my exams. And I just said, I really want to sing. And so I went to singing lessons. And then I didn't touch the piano again for almost 10 years. And then,
What a great thing you had that foundation in piano, right?
Absolutely.
Would you say that then coming back to it, I think that's been in the time I've known you that you got a little more committed to the piano playing.
Yeah. So I think when I met you, I came as, I'm a singer. I know I do, you know, I sing for people or I sing in shows. And then sort of around that year, I decided that there might be a lot more work out there for me if I could, you know, do it by myself and not rely on other musicians or rely on other people to accompany me. So I started dabbling in the piano again. And obviously with the help of, you know, a good friend of yours and my mentor, Noel McDonald.
Hi to Noel.
Yep, hi to Noel.
Hello, Noel. What a fan. And what a wonderful man, because she has the same birthday as me.
He
Same
does.
year, the whole bit.
Everything.
And a magnificent singer. And
Yeah.
We're hoping to get him in here at some stage as well. That'd be fantastic.
Awesome. Well, he better return the compliment then when
We'll
he's
see
in here.
we'll see what he says.
No,
Yeah.
he was amazing, and I stumbled across him when I was 18. He was singing, and I just remember thinking, I don't know who you are, but I have to sing with you. And he was a bit like, okay, yes, okay, sure, right, all right. Heard that before, and then fate had it that we joined forces, and
we'll talk more to Noel when we see him, and of course, but my first encounter with him was Star Search in the 1980s, and watching him, and anyhow, once again, when we get him in, I'm sure that footage will be around somewhere, albeit both he and I share common things. We have footage which is on videotape. So for anyone watching, a videotape was a format that used to be around quite a while. It's interesting with the piano playing. Most of the singers that I've admired in my life, most of them are piano players. You know, even I was astounded to learn that a lot of them played, even though you don't see them play live.
That's right.
But they have a foundation in music. And the other thing I can vouch for, I have two grown-up children now. They both started piano just before they went to school. my daughter pursued it fairly well till about 12, 13, 14. My son, not so much, but they both still can play.
Yeah.
And I know that even at they're only, well, one's just 18, the other one's 21. I know if they return to it, they would pick it up quite well.
Yeah.
And I think that's certainly something. Now, I do want to give some assurance to folks who are thinking, oh, well, I'm watching this and I'm in my 40s and I've never played the piano. But if you've got the 10 fingers, you're fine.
That's right.
I didn't start until I was about 23 or 24, actually.
Okay.
Albeit that I was a guitar player for a while. I actually started as a drummer and all that stuff, which we won't get into too much today. But I found that, it was doable. And, of course, I have no comparison at that point. But I think it's a good fundamental thing. Singers get dismissed readily as not being musicians.
I talk about this all the time.
And some of them, quite frankly, I mean, we've got the running gags that we have, about people saying, well, I'd like to sing My Way by, Frank Sinatra, what key? Same as the record.
The original.
Whatever that means. And the last count that I saw, there were over 3,000 cover versions of that recorded. So you do need to be somewhat conversant, And I know in your studio you insist on it. Here I insist on people having at least a basic knowledge, being able to talk through, at the very minimum, with their audition piece, I'd like this kind of tempo, please start from bar, whatever.
That's right. All right. I always say it, I think it's a great foundation. And if my mum watches this, she'll definitely vouch for it. I hope she watches it. She's always said, she's like, you'll thank me one day. You'll thank me. Because I did not want to play piano when I was younger. I hated doing my exams. I didn't like the pressure of a Stedfords. I didn't like any of that. And she's like, you will thank me one day. You will. And then when I started it, she's just like, aren't you lucky that your mother, made you do piano lessons when you were younger? And she's right. Because it's made everything a lot easier. And it just makes a lot more sense. And communicating with other musicians, you don't feel...
Yeah. And dearest I say, given the climate of how professional music is where we are in Australia, and this may be true on a worldwide basis, it's provided you with an income.
Oh, absolutely.
That where you're not solely you're not reliant upon other musicians to perform. Which, as I say, we will get to that a little bit later on, because I want people to know the kind of demands that are placed upon a singer in your environment, and we'll talk about that at length. Some memories going to me. Your father is a musician, right? A drummer, and so this was something that was just quite natural to you as you grew up.
I mean, Dad's whole family is very musical. They're all still over in Italy and Switzerland, and they've sort of branched out into America as well. But the whole family was musical. My dad's side of the family, Mum's side of the family, not musical. Right. It was Mum that sort of said, "I want the girls to do music," because it's something she always wanted to do, but obviously, just where she was and where she, it wasn't something that was possible for her. But Dad was, Dad was a drummer for years. He still drums in a band. He's such a rock star.
Yes.
And but he worked on cruise ships, and him and his brothers and sister had a band for a while there, and
You do know the running joke there, and no offense to any of our dear friends who are drummers who are watching, we love you all, but a 5-piece band is any great 4 musicians and a drummer. Yes. Sorry. Oliver, isn't it? Your dad's name? Yeah. Sorry about that. Bad joke. We might cut that out, but,
No, it's all right. I think he's heard it before. I think it's all right.
Yes. Yeah. And he's a lovely man too. I've met him on a number of occasions. So that's interesting. And you're the oldest of 3 sisters. You're in the middle.
I'm the middle.
Sorry, I've got that wrong plenty of times, haven't I?
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, there was a 3-way guess sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it. No, definitely the middle child.
But Tanya is a singer, from memory? A musician.
My older sister she's a drummer first and foremost.
Yeah, well we've handled
incredible.
that already. Yeah.
But she also plays piano. She teaches drums, piano, guitar, bass. She's a great songwriter. She's mentored a lot of children through their music careers. And she can sing. It's never been something that she's pursued, but she can. Mm-hmm. And then I'm the middle. So I play piano and sing. And then my younger sister, she did start with piano as well, but it wasn't something that she pursue, but she's very artistic. She's a great makeup artist, and so she's got that streak.
Fantastic.
of
Wonderful. So that was the long-winded answer of when did you know.
Sorry.
Now that's okay. This is what this is about, to chat. It's the point of knowing when you're a singer, and it may not have been when you were 14 when you went on stage. Look, in my case, I don't remember a time where I wasn't a singer.
Right.
I remember moments about singing in front of people, and I've spoken about this on some of our other episodes, where I unashamedly say it made me feel really good about myself, and thank goodness that it did, because you see that, you know, with kids, when something goes, whether they be good at sport or whether they be good with academic or whatnot, you want something that makes you feel good about yourself, absolutely. And it really does help to develop character. And it also pretty much played hand in hand with being a bit of a show off as well. And, you know. Well, it was just something not that you're like that, you know.
Not at all. I was the shyest child you've ever met in your life. I still am quite shy and reserved. But look, high school was definitely a turning point for me.
Right.
When I was able to do music as a subject, and it was something that I was naturally just the best at. You know what I mean? I didn't come first in any other subject at school.
Gotcha.
So that was the turning point for me. It was kind of like, oh, here's something that I don't have to stress about that much to get the marks that I want to get, because I already had the foundation of understanding music. So, and then my senior years, year 11 and 12, I changed schools and went to just a senior select high school, and that was a real moment. Yeah, because we got a lot of performance opportunities. Do you know what I mean? So I was constantly getting asked to sing here or sing there, and I really had to sort of, you know, climb up the ladder. When I first got there, I wasn't looked at as, we had a very strong year of great singers, and I was not one of them. Right. But I was determined to, I didn't know that about you. I was determined to sort of, you know, and I ended up doing great things with my HSC. So
that's an interesting thing. I did not know that about you with that in that area. One of the things that we're looking at doing with these podcasts and with these recordings is having people like yourself who've been in the business for a long time, who really understand what it takes to perform night after night after night. Just give us a little bit of a heads up at the kind of regime that you, or the kind of routine that you have, and then we might talk about some specific exercises that you know that work really, really well for you.
Yeah, so I sing when I'm on the cruise ships, because I work on the cruise ships. When I'm on there, I do between 4 and 5 hours a night straight. No break generally. I sort of just go straight through. So it is, to me, I've sort of come to, like, my mentality is that I'm an athlete, and I've got to run a marathon every night. So I have the same, I'm very, very strict in giving myself the same preparation every day to be ready for that long haul. Okay. And
I'm just going to warn out, this is a vocal tip coming your way right now. Right. Tell us what that is.
So I'm very funny on the ship. I've got to have a certain amount of sleep. So depending on what time I go to bed will depend on what time I wake up. And if I've had a rough night's sleep, then if that means that I just get up and eat and go back and sleep, I've got to be well rested. I've got to have sleep, water, hydration. I know I need to drink at least, I like to have 3 liters. We get 1.5 liter bottles on the ship. So 2 of those, I want to finish those 3 hours prior to performance time. And that way I don't generally have to have a sip of water the whole time I'm singing, like maybe 1 or 2, but I'm so hydrated. I generally wake up and go straight to the steam room and go for a walk, get some fresh air. And sort of if my show time starts at 9, by 6 o'clock is when I have to have finished whatever I'm doing, like going out on an excursion that day, or, you know, hanging with some friends or whatever. I have to be back in my room, and that's when I start the process of getting ready. This, like hair, makeup, vocally, mentally, all that sort of stuff. So it becomes this little sort of 3-hour me time and pep talk and vocal warm-ups and all that sort of stuff, and just feeling comfortable. And I don't get dressed till the last minute, so I'm comfortable. But and then it just comes with, you know, I'll just start I literally sit in my room and start talking to myself, just using my voice, making sure everything's sort of in the right place. You know, I'll be sipping on some more water as well. And as I'm getting ready, I'll just start doing some exercises. I have your app on my iPad and my phone that just sits there in my room.
That's a shameless plug right there. That's the Vocal Mastery app, available on Android and smartphone, isn't it? Yeah. It's called. Sorry, I should know. And it's free. It's a free app.
I think most people that I've met on cruise ships now have your app.
Well, there you go.
Because they always come to me and say, like, how do you sing for that long? And I tell them about it. I say, look, do you do warm-ups? And a lot of people don't warm up before they sing.
I'm amazed at that.
Blows my mind. I say, but an athlete would never go for a run without stretching legs, or a dancer would never try and, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I was like, so I've said, just next port when we have Wi-Fi, get this app, come to me, I'll talk you through it, you know, blah, blah, blah.
That's very sweet.
So, but I have your whole program actually loaded onto my iPad. So I've got all the exercises, and just sort of, I know I start with the easier ones and I might do them 3 or 4 times over, but I'm taking my time. I don't sort of go, oh my gosh, I have 20 minutes, I have to warm up, and I go hard, because it works better for me to slowly warm up and then have sort of like a half an hour of nothing and then maybe do a few more before I get on stage. So, but it's really I mean, it's routine, and I'm not a routine person at all, but when it comes to preparing for especially a 4 or 5 hour show where I know I have to sing, and people don't want to just hear easy songs. Once they hear me sing, they want to hear the Whitney, they want to hear, you know, and night after night after night after night. So I do six nights straight. So it's just it's routine.
Yeah, that's
muscle
remarkable.
memory, and yeah.
I'm surprised too. You know, you and I have done theatre shows. Well, we haven't done anything together, but we've done shows, and you would, every dancer you see, their stretch routine is extraordinary. You know, and I've shared dressing rooms with people, and you know, the best they've got is a clearing of the throat and a bit of a spit into the sink, and on they go. It
blows my mind.
And so many of those people are off on vocal rest.
Oh,
you know,
all the time.
They're constantly going off. And you think, well, surely it would make some sort of sense. Now, I'm all into the idea of preserving your voice to the extent where you go, well, okay, I've got show after show. I'll do minimal amount of talking. But at some point, you've got to rev it up to get it going. And in theatre in particular, if you've got an opening song that has a high C
right
in it, then you can't say, well, listen, I'll just do a couple of
easy songs.
Lionel Richie ballads to warm up.
Yeah.
You know, I think certainly not to make a comparison in a disfavourable way. To some extent, you get that luxury in the piano bar. You can start off and build.
Absolutely.
But you're so right. I've been on enough of those ships, you know, as a performer and also as a passenger, to pop in the piano bar and go, I guess when the alcohol's flowing for the guests, it's sing-song time.
Yeah.
And they're after what you've got.
Yeah, and if they've heard me do, I've had a lot of people come in and be like, I brought my daughter in, she can only stay for the first 10 minutes. Can you please sing Chandelier?
Yeah.
And it's like,
do
you understand it's like 8 a.m. in the morning for me right now? It's just all switched on. But, you know, because I've done the preparation, and it's rare that I'll do it. I'll be like, you got to give me a little bit more time, because I am a long distance runner. I'm not a sprinter, so I don't get fatigued by the end. I'm sort of in my element at the end of the 4 hours.
Yeah.
So, and I think that just comes from doing it. There was a time I was not. I would get through 5 songs and be like, oh, I'm so tired. But it's just a training. To me, I'm an athlete. That's how I look at it. And athletes, you know, Olympians, they're up at the crack of dawn every day and they're doing their training. They're in the pool and they're doing lap after lap after lap. They cannot run the race if they haven't done the training.
Correct. So, yep, no, it's a good message. I occasionally get people who, for want of a better term, are looking at a more effective way to do nothing. You know what I mean? And I just say to them, well, that's right. I just say to them at some point, especially when I know the history of the amount of teachers they've been to and the people, then I think, well, it's possible all those other people were wrong. That can happen, but it's very rare. And what I say to the folks now is, what is it you're not willing to do? I mean, just be honest about it.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to put in a certain amount of time per day, then you need to accept the consequences that go with that. And I try to get them to actually accept that's what goes with it. I don't try and make people feel guilty. That's not my job. No. But if you would like to have the kind of career that you're espousing, then you are going to need to do more than what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Now, that's pretty much straightforward. And some folks just get that and others go, oh, no, there has to be an easier way to do it. Well, if there is, let us know and we'll all log on to it. And I'd also like the one only workout video as well, one time only. The one only diet.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
The one only savings plan. I'd like all of it.
There's got to be an easy way. There's got to be a secret tablet or, you know. But I know people that wake up 10 minutes before showtime. Like they'll have a 2-hour nap. Yeah. Wake up and then they would have already done their hair and makeup before having that nap and walk. And I'm like, it takes me, I'm going to say 3 hours to completely physically, mentally, vocally, everything wake up. So it's like, if I have a nap during the day on the ship, if I've gone out in the sun, I come back, I still have to be awake out of bed by 6 p.m. to be ready for that 9 p.m. show. I can't, a minute later and I feel like it's not there.
You're tuned in to Live at Leigh's Place, where we talk to singers about singing stuff. Proudly presented by vocalmastery.com, where there's never been a better time to become a great singer. Yes, we're keeping our water intake up, of course, every single moment of every day.
Amazing mugs. I'm going to gift you with a mug with my face on it.
Please do.
Okay.
It's just what everyone should have, in my opinion. That's looking fine. Yeah. All right. Take two. Yes, I remember I was doing a show and I had my own dressing room and I took a mattress in there so I could have a sleep in between the matinee and the evening performance. But I said to the stage manager, wake me up at 6 o'clock for an 8 o'clock show.
Yeah.
There's just, because if I went further than that, it was a rush. I'd like to have a little bit to eat, certainly not too much before the show. I'd like to be well and truly awake and warmed up and whatnot. So I understand that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What particular exercises do you find get you into that spot that you need to be ready for the evening performance?
Yeah, so for me, I always start, once I've woken up at whatever time of day. I'm not going to give away my secrets there because sometimes it's very much in the afternoon,
yes.
Depending on the night before and how I slept. But once I wake up and wash my face and go for a walk or whatever, I just start with talking. I always just start making sure my talking voice is where I want it to be and it's not sort of, I'm not sitting back down here or it's not, I don't know. I just like to know that the positioning of my voice is where I want it to be and I just start talking gradually throughout the day. Once I get to that sort of 3-hour gap where I'm going to really start warming up, I always start with the bubbles, always in something basic, just like really nice and simple. Do you like that I played that? I can't help myself. Did you like that?
I noticed that.
Just played that.
I wasn't sure what key you were in there, but
yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, let's not get into that. Okay. So I start with basic ones, and then it really depends. I have your whole program on my iPad.
That would be this program,
This
right
program,
here.
yes. So I have the app on my phone as well, which is great for when I'm driving to gigs on land. But I have the whole program on my iPad, so I just go through and select ones. But there's the one that I do religiously is the Snakes and Ladder, which is the Chromatic.
Ah, right.
Because I find that one exposes my voice better than any other exercise. I'm not jumping around notes,
Yes.
going straight through that. And sometimes I'll do it after 5 exercises. Sometimes it'll take me 20 exercises before I go, now is the time to expose the most awkward part of your voice. But that is probably the only one that I do like religiously every single month.
There was a reason that I did that exercise, for years. And I'm a fan of sirening and all that sort of stuff. Although I think for the inexperienced person, sirening or sliding and whatnot can create havoc for them.
Yeah.
So you've got to be mindful of that. There seems to work though for singers for them to have a musical pattern to follow.
Absolutely.
And the Snakes and Ladder thing. So for those folks who are not familiar with my program, I have an exercise. It's a chromatic scale on the way up and just comes down in steps.
Yeah.
But as weird as that sounds, you would think that even if you're running a major scale, you might go da 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 through on a major scale, and you'd think, well, if I'm moving up a semitone, surely I'm going to cover that bridge, break, passaggio, whatever you call it. But there's something about when you have to go through it chromatically that really exposes whether the voice is activating correctly or not. And I find that an invaluable exercise. It's one of the exercises I get the most. Well, compliments might not be the right word, but they go, oh, this is a bit tricky, this one.
It is.
And I like it. But I find if I'm going through chromatically, then I just know the voice is sitting in a good spot,
I agree.
Well, not just going through musically chromatically, because anyone can make the pitch happen. But if I'm going through with a minimal amount of movement and I'm staying put and going through chromatically, you know that your voice is in pretty good shape. Yeah. That kind of leads us in an odd way. I'm segueing into one of the things that we do here at Live at Leigh's Place is we have a giveaway. Oh. And so we're going to put a little question in at this point. And one of those questions is based on what we've been talking about. Now, this may seem to be a trick question. And today's question to be read by Natalie, the first question is...
I don't even know what it is.
And beautifully written out on expensive paper, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Is the first question there. And I'm going to give the answer away anyway, but it will basically... It means that people have been listening at that point.
Okay. Question 1. How long should you warm up for?
Great question.
$1 million question.
Now, let's you and I talk about that for a sec. It's not boiling an egg, right? It's not 3 minutes.
Nope, that's right.
And I have people say to me, oh, how long? There was a famous story, I believe it was Pavarotti, who said, I warm up, voice not too good. I go the afternoon, I warm up, not so good, and I'm doing my very poor broken Italian accent thing. But at some point he said, gets close to the show, I yell. Now, Now, he was kind of laughing and saying that, but I find that for me, my warm-up will start pretty much as soon as I'm as physically awake as possible.
Yeah.
Now, I'm an avid runner, and so by the time I come back from a run in the morning, I'm about as awake as I'm ever going to be.
Right.
Neurologically, aerobically, everything is on. So I normally get in the shower. That's where my vocal warm-up will start, because most of my work these days can be 10, 12 hours a day of teaching. Yeah. So, I'm demonstrating all day, and so that's where it starts. But it's sort of a trick question.
It is, yeah. Because I think it depends on the person, what they're warming up for, like how long is the race they've got to run.
Correct.
What sort of, a whole bunch of things.
And so where's the warm-up leading to as well? Is it leading into another group of exercises? So is there a definitive answer? And in fact, the answer is there is no definitive answer. So that's question one. Question two.
Am I reading again?
And by the way, what folks are going to do, they'll be subscribing to this. I know I see everyone in their videos do this thing, but in our description box, we'll have where we want you to subscribe and where we want you to send an email with the answer to these questions. Will be at voice@vocalmastery.com. Voice@vocalmastery.com. How much water should I aim for per day?
Are you asking me?
Well, I'm. Do you
want to know what I drink?
I'm asking both of us.
I know when I feel hydrated, so I guess that's for me. Like, as I said I think I said earlier, on a ship, I want to have 3 liters before, I want to have finished that 3 liters, sort of, 2 or 3 hours prior to showtime.
Gotcha.
So because water doesn't instantly hydrate you. It takes time to go through the body and get to the vocal cords. So people that sort of go, I should probably have a cup of water before I go on stage, that is going to do nothing except maybe make you burp. As far as I'm concerned.
Maybe wet your mouth. That's pretty much it. Make your lips
So
gloss.
I don't actually like drinking water while I'm singing, because I do. I just feel like it's in the way, and I don't. Yep. Yeah. So So
it's a question I'm asked a lot. And I can almost always answer without being sarcastic about it, probably more than you are drinking. But let me give you a number. I've got to give you this in metric, I'm sorry to say. So for those folks in ounces, you'll have to work out the calculation. It's 33 milliliters of water per kilogram of body weight. So for a 50 kilogram person, it's about 1.65 liters per day. Now, if you're exercising, it's a little more.
Yeah.
If it's hot, it's a little more. If you're in the drying conditions of air conditioning all the time, it's a little more.
That's right.
I think the best measurement is 2 to 3 hours after you've gotten up, you check your wee. If your wee is not clear, then you are probably dehydrated.
A little dehydrated.
Now, you may be taking vitamins that might make that a bit coloured, or what's that thing people take, Berocca or something.
Things like that,
But if your wee is not clear, then you are essentially dehydrated. The other point is that by the time you get the message, I need to have a drink of water, you're actually already starting to dehydrate.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
you pretty much got to sip that water all day. So what is the answer to how much water should I drink?
Well, I mean, the math you just gave us, but also, I mean, to me,
until my wee is clear.
Until my wee is clear.
Yeah. Well, in this case, until your wee is clear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. On show days, though, I wake up, the first thing I do is 600 ml. Like, I have a little, and I just down that, and that's my good morning. It's not. I don't wake up and have a coffee. I wake up and have a bottle of water. And
the thing behind the coffee, and I'm not against coffee by any stretch of the imagination.
I have one a day.
But it is what's the problem with coffee?
It can dehydrate you.
Yeah, that's right.
It can cause reflux too, caffeine.
Yeah.
So as a very, very chronic reflux sufferer myself, I know, and I can only have one a day. I have not had one today yet.
There you go.
But I can only have...
The day is
it's only early. But I can only have one a day. If I have 2, that's when I start.
So there is an answer there. The answer is until you have clear wee. That's the best one to go.
Hydrated.
All right. Moving on. Back? Where would back be? Do you get nervous before performances? And if so, what do you do to calm your nerves?
I would say it depends on the performance. So my regular performance is working in piano bars, but if I've just joined a new vessel, like a new ship where I know nobody, or it's a new company that I've not worked for, or I'm, you know, I know that there's important people on that ship that are probably going to come. Yeah, of course I get a little nervous. My way over that is I talk to myself. I remember I sit there and I go, you have two options here, Natalie. When people walk into your bar, you can be a little awkward and not talk and be nervous and wait an hour till you get over that. Or you can make yourself be everything that you want to be in this performance the second the first person walks in the door. And that's what I do. I have to actually tell myself, you have two options. You can fly or you can fall right now.
Right.
So and it's this mental, and I sit there and sometimes I'll be like, and someone will walk in and be like, hey, how we doing? How should I? Welcome aboard, you know, you're on vacation. Like, and I just let them know my personality. So I start talking to them on a, you know, as a person, not as I am the performer and I'm going to entertain you. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm very much how I'm talking right now is how I talk to people. If I'm on a main stage, which I don't do as much anymore, that's kind of where I was before I did piano bars. I do get nervous still. I actually, only because I think, wow, all I have to concentrate on is my voice. Like, I'm not concentrating on two things.
Right.
I don't have people sitting this close to me. There is a sort of a wall between me and the audience in that respect. Whereas in piano bars, there's no, like, I have to let them in. I have to be real. I have to show every bit of emotion I can show. Whereas on a main stage, you do have a bit of a, you know, okay.
All right. So what about a situation where if you were auditioning, and I know you've auditioned for a lot of theatre shows and been successful with some and like the rest of us, not with all. Well,
many.
It happens. What would, because that's a totally different environment, right?
It is.
You just go in and okay, what have you got for us? Yeah, and it sometimes it's somewhat impersonal. You know.
Yeah.
What would you do in that set of circumstances?
Yep.
Is it the same decision? Well, I'm just going to let them see who I am. And
I do. I say I stand outside that door and I know my number's going to get called next. And there's been so many. And it's funny because I know when I'm going to succeed and when I'm not. I feel like it's my frame of mind and how much preparation I've done. So if I've picked songs, like if I've really studied this audition and what they're looking for, and have I got the right material, have I learnt, you know, did I read the play that the monologue came from, and all that sort of stuff. If I'm really prepared and I have this great frame of mind where I'm just like, I want this so bad and I know I'm exactly what they want, I walk in there and I'm just me. I'm just like, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And comfortably go over to the piano player and say, this is where, you know, I want to start. Can we make it sound like, talk to them like I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm in control of the situation. I think the second you walk into a room where you give an idea that you're not in control of the situation, it's just like pulling a thread. It just starts coming undone. And it can take one thing to make you just go, no.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yes, I've had that circumstance where you glance over at the audition panel and there's someone and they might be saying, what are we having for lunch? They might not be saying anything about this girl is no good or this girl's fabulous. And you think, what are they saying? So getting distracted is something that's easy to do.
Yeah.
We were talking before we came on air about when you were away, about keeping yourself healthy. And you'd mentioned to me, I want our listeners and viewers to know about what it's like to, unfortunately, you know, be unwell and still have to go and perform, and what you had to do to get through that.
Yeah. So I think it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I got very, very sick on a ship. And I mean, I've been sick on ships before with a head cold or a chest infection, and I've had to have a day off or whatever, you know, but this was, I didn't know what was wrong. Something was wrong. And I was very, very ill, and it was affecting my voice predominantly. And I had a cough that was, it was just constant. Anyway, long story short, I didn't really get the help I needed on the ship, and I was signed to a 3-month contract. I did ask to go home about 3 weeks after I got really sick, because it was just, I could feel it going downhill. But I didn't get to go home. I'm not going to go into that. I didn't get to go home, and the pressure was on. I had, you know, the cruise director and other people saying, you know, there's a lot of people that have booked just to come and see you. Like, can you soldier on? Like, we'll give you a day off, knowing full well that I needed probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks off, because I was feeling very fatigued, very agitated. I was not eating well because I wasn't feeling like it. I was just sleeping and working because I had no energy. And long story short, when I got home and I finished the 3-month contract, which wasn't the best idea because I did do some damage to my voice. And I ended up with, I guess you'd say like a pre-nodule on my right side. Which was, first of all, an indication that I was sick and it wasn't vocal fatigue, because it would have been on both sides of the vocal cords if it was from, singing. But it was, and I knew it. So I was like, I bet you it's the right side, and it's gonna be about, like, I could picture it in my head because I knew where I was feeling the problem when I was talking, when I was trying to sing through exercises and certain songs. I'll never forget, my biggest fear for some reason was Tiny Dancer, Elton John, because when it hold me close, that note I could not hit. That was the note that disappeared from my range. And it's like every time I got to that song, I'd just be like, sing it for me. So it's like, I remember it so vividly. I remember how I felt. And
thank goodness for the crowd at that point.
Yeah, but for me, I guess my musicality kicked in that I would sit down and I knew exactly where the problem area was on my vocal cords, and exactly where that would fall in a song, and whether it would be like if I was belting that note versus having to flip on that note, the consequences. So I just started singing around. It was like a blessing and a curse. It was like I was smart enough to avoid the problem area, and I'd sing, and the people that never heard me sing were just like, and I kept apologizing because I was like, I'm sorry.
You telling me about that.
I was really not in a good frame of mind. I remember calling you from the ship and going, they're making me sing again, and I listened to this. I can't. I've got nothing. I've got, some days I could talk but couldn't sing, and other days I could sing but I could not talk throughout the day. So the preparation, that routine that I'd have, was just out the window because it wasn't full. Like, there was damage. It was starting to happen. So, but what that eventually did in the long run, now I'm fully recovered now, after coming home and having a 4-month break and going to a speech pathologist, coming to see you, and just sort of gradually getting back into it. But what it did was created a really unusual technique that I did not want in my life, because I've been singing around this problem area that is like, I guess, I think you've said this to me before, it's kind of like walking on a sore foot. You alter the way you walk, and then you end up with maybe a problem up in your hip, which was from your foot, because instead of walking like you would, you had something sore here, so you were kind of walking like that. And then the whole alignment goes out. And so what I had done was kind of shifted my whole technique just sort of slightly like that.
It's
from just one little problem area. And so I kind of, it's taken a year and a half to really get back to.
There's a reason, well, the reasons you've already given us, but the thing that's behind how we sing is, and this is I guess even before technique and even before all the anatomy and all the things that go, is that, and I just call it the musician in you. Now, for a lot of singers don't consider themselves musicians. You are. You're a person. In fact, you're one of the few musicians that actually has to create the entire thing.
Exactly.
Whereas the truth is, anyone can walk up to a piano and play a note, and it sounds the same, doesn't matter whether a classical pianist or a beginner, right? So in our particular circumstances, now whatever sense of pitch you've got, that is what you will become slave to. So the musician in you wins out, and if on that particular night or the particular performance, or in fact just in general, if all you do is try and make the note, you'll get there somehow. You see it on TV shows all the time. You hear it in live performances all the time. And that's because primarily you're trying to make sound. Now, if you've got a good technique, then of course that technique will support making that sound. But if you're obstructed in some way, or if you're pre-nodular or you're unwell, then you're going to do whatever you got to do to get through it. And, here or there, that's going to be okay. As it starts to happen on a more regular basis, that person's headed for trouble, usually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is, the circumstance. And you reminded me of a story. There's of a Broadway show, was Victor Victoria, I think it was. And it was Julie Andrews was playing the lead role in it. You're tuned in to Live at Leigh's Place, where we talk to singers about singing stuff. Proudly presented by vocalmastery.com, where there's never been a better time to become a great singer. So Julie Andrews' husband, Blake Edwards, was also a producer of the show. So there's all these really kind of awkward things. Yeah. And anyhow, subsequently she had made a very rash decision to have a procedure, and she's never been able to sing again. That beautiful voice is gone.
Yeah.
She's still been able to do voice acting. She was in Shrek, I think, the second one, or and film and whatnot. But insofar as her singing voice is concerned, there's a lot more to that story. But so this is the pressure that can go on.
It's so much pressure, and it's so scary. And unlike a guitarist that breaks a string and can just fix a string,
yes,
you feel when something's not quite right. And for me, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it turned out to be whooping cough for me.
Correct.
So it was like this, what I had, and I'd never had it before. I didn't know the symptoms. I just knew that it was coughing, but it was like this nothing cough that was actually very aggressive. And everything was just, I was faint. I was nauseous. I was and it really brought this down. Like, I'd walk to my show that usually I'd be walking going, gonna kill it tonight, can't wait, got a full bar, and I would walk and almost be in tears because I was just like, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth tonight. And what people come, they don't, like, other people that do my job have gimmicks or like props and dirty jokes and stuff like that. And for me, people come because of my voice and my personality, and I was lacking both because my personality was so affected by the fact that my voice wasn't where I wanted it to be. So it was this vicious cycle, and I was just stuck in this 3-month contract. Yeah. And I was 3 or not even 3 weeks in when I started getting sick, and it was Christmas Eve. I'll never forget it. And I was just, it was just right. And you want to play hero, you want to keep going, but you also know something doesn't feel right. And then, so they give me a day off here and a day off there, 2 days off in a row, but it wasn't enough. I really needed 3 or 4 weeks to just let everything recover. I needed some sort of medicine that they couldn't work out what was wrong with me. So I wasn't getting any, like, nothing. I was getting nothing. So it's hard.
Very interesting. You mentioned there about people coming to see you sing. So in the week that we're recording this, it was last week, I think, Celine Dion was in Australia, and she was in Melbourne, and a singer, John Farnham, who's like a national, he's an icon here, and he's a phenomenal singer.
Love.
If you don't know anything about him, go and look for him.
You'll thank us.
Absolutely extraordinary. So she's been doing one of his songs, which was a huge hit for him almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And sort of sending out video messages, John, we'd love you to come and sing with us sometime. And it turns out on the Melbourne concert, he turned up. Now, the performance is there online. I'll let people view that for themselves. But what was really interesting for me was afterwards, was the respect between them. And at one point, did you see John said to Celine, after she was incredibly complimentary to him, said, I was reading something yesterday, people come to hear you sing. And I think he had a little bit of a sideswipe at a couple of other acts, novelty acts. He said, you're not on a trapeze, or you don't arrive on a camel, or something, And I don't think he was being disrespectful. What he was saying is, people come to hear you sing. And, if you don't have the novelties, and if you're not using the backing track, or if you're not using the ghost vocalist, which is basically someone else is singing along with you and you're singing over the top of them, if you're not at that level, which you're not, and you don't need to be, of course, then you've got so much reliance upon your voice that it's just imperative to treat it like what you were talking about earlier, as like being an athlete and taking the best care of yourself. We're going to start winding it down a bit now, but I want to know if, and I didn't really get into, we didn't have an opportunity to really talk today about some of the guidance you've been able to give some young people, as a coach as well. But to up-and-coming singers, with all the experience that you've now got, what would you be giving in terms of advice to up-and-coming singers?
I would say find yourself a method of singing and a teacher that can talk to you and you understand. For me, it took a long time, and I've said this before, and I'm not just saying it because you're sitting next to me. The first lesson I came and had with you, I left. I remember calling my mum, and I was in tears. And she said, I
didn't know that.
She said, you didn't like it? And I said, no, I'm mad at all the money we've spent over the years with singing teachers, and I learnt more in that 1 hour from that man than I've learnt with any other teacher ever. Oh,
well, that's very sweet. I didn't know that was the case.
And it was so,
I'm pleased.
I felt frustrated. I felt excited but frustrated. And I remember just saying, can you just book me in for the next year? And I came every single week for that next year because I was just like, I was so excited of what could you know, what I could do. And I just had teachers that just, it's like they were teaching because it was a job. And I mean, if any of them that I went to over the years watch this, I do apologize. But at the same time, I think that you've got to find someone that you can really understand and respond to. And I say that to people that come in to see me. I said, I may not be the right person for you, but let's see what we can do. Let's give it a 2 or 3 week trial. If you're not happy, I'm not offended. Okay?
Yeah, I have the same philosophy. And in fact, I'll do my utmost to find them somebody where the fit is right. I have a little saying to folks, which is, I'd like to be the last vocal teacher you ever have to go to. Now, what I mean by that is not the person who knows it all. Far from it. And they will probably find a better style coach. They might find a better audition coach. Perhaps not. But if that person is willing to commit, and that's what it comes down to. Yeah. For the bulk of the time, I find people who, I think I mentioned this earlier, they're coming to try and find a more effective way to do nothing. And right. I can't help them with that. You can't help them with that. And really, any voice teacher worth their salt is going to say to that person, listen, you're not willing to do it.
Don't waste my time.
Don't waste my time. Yeah. Save your money and do whatever you're going to do. Right. So I try to be the person who, and sometimes it's uncomfortable for those people. I don't apply unnecessary pressure, I think, but I try and paint them into a corner and say, you're there. Do you want to come out? Do you want to do this?
Yeah.
And if so, I will do what I can to help you with that. And if I'm not the right person to do that, I will find somebody who is.
Absolutely.
And in truth, some of those people don't come back.
Yeah. Oh, no, I've had it too.
They oh, yeah, this is great and wonderful. I'll give you a call next week. You never hear from them again.
Right.
That's fine. And I do not mean this in one bit to be satisfied with the answer, with the response I'm about to give. Rarely have I heard of that person again. In other words, I've not put the radio on and gone, here's blah 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 person, and go, wow, and I would be very happy for that. Yeah. I'm not trying to be justified in this way, if that's the right way to put it, or well, that person, I couldn't care less about that attitude.
Yeah.
But I must say, and I say that as a message to singers out there, that look, it's the commitment that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And as Natalie said, finding the right approach and then adhering to that approach and giving it time. What you're going to see is a common theme on these Live at Leigh's Place podcasts and videos is people who are not 1 or 2 years into their career, people who have been doing it now for quite a while, who have got real experience to share with you. Now, that's not to suggest that somebody 1 or 2 years can't tell you about a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But you've got to be looking at something over the mid to long term.
That's right.
To know whether it's working for you. And, the people that we've been interviewing so far, in some cases, I've had associations with them for 15 and 20 years. Yeah. And I'm very gratified by that. I can't tell you how humbling that is. But it's not about them validating what I've done. It's about them being able to tell first-hand stories, people who are actually doing it. And I want to thank Natalie for her time today and for her friendship. If only more time allowed, the stories I could tell.
Oh, no.
Yes, some of the funniest things I've seen in my life, but with Nat and her sense of humour, yes. Well, without question, the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life is we were both at a course in Tampa in Florida, and Natalie was picked to do something from Gypsy. Got to Get a Gimmick, I think, from memory. And she was allocated the part of the trumpet player. So when anyone knows the movie, I want you to imagine someone who'd never played the trumpet in their life. And I'll leave that to your imagination. It remains the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So glad.
And what a shame that we don't have any footage of that, because we put it in that description now. Well, Nat, there's only one thing left for us to say, and that is, let's go and have a sing.
Let's do it.
Thanks for your time, Dal.
Thank you.
Tale as old as time, true as it can be, barely even friends, then somebody bends unexpectedly.
just a little change, small to say the least, both a little scared, neither one prepared. Beauty and the Beast, ever just the same, ever a surprise, ever as before, ever just as sure as the sun will rise. Sure as the sun will rise. Oh, oh, tale as old as time, tune as old as song, bittersweet and strange, finding you can change, learning you were wrong. Certain as the sun, certain as the sun, rising in the east, tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, Beauty and the Beast, tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, Beauty and the Beast. Oh, yeah.